This is our third talk for the day. Thank you all so much for avoiding kids' sport and a gorgeous sunny day out there. Francis has come up to talk to us today. Francis is an economist by trade who has become an entrepreneur, but he likes to tackle the big projects. The first project that I met Francis on, he was in the process of commercialising a technology out of the University of Queensland. And it was a DAF technology, so it was microbubbles to extract solids out of water. And this was an amazing technology. So it would extract, 98% of all solids out of water.
That's right.
And the idea was commercial it, sell it to the abattoirs, and they could get away with all their big stinky ponds and, sort of absolutely wonderful things.
Sewage plants.
Yeah, and for sewage plants and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So, and then Francis somehow ended up with some industrial land, which he ended up having to put a solar farm on.
Yes, that's
which
right.
leads us to the talk today.
That's right.
So
that's right.
I'll hand you over, Francis.
That's right. Bruce rang me up and I was in my grotto in Sydney hiding. I don't want to come out. I just want to stay in here. It's safe. But after a while, I thought, no, I need to go and have a talk to some real people because I haven't been there for a while.
and you're fine on the Central Coast anyway.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, we have a moat.
Yeah, I noticed the drawbridges and people being terminated.
Yes.
I drove fast. So Bruce forced me to actually accelerate my progress here. This is a little business that, as Bruce was just saying, I've been working on to take solar forward. The other business is still there, but we'll come back to that in the future. And the essential point to take home to your house, to your business, to anyone else has a business, and it doesn't matter whether it's just your house or your BHP, is about taking power. So you actually take power over your solar future. And just so the reason there's a submarine on there is because people think, well, we're all adapted to taking power off the grid. We just pay our money, they send us electricity, we don't like them, they think we're cash cows, and it's a very bad relationship all round. And we have a society driven by fossil fuels. Submarines have been running on integrated power systems since World War I. Basically, they're electric engines that are driven by power. It's nuclear or diesel, whatever. It's basically electric drivetrains, diesel-electric locomotives. Now with the new technology, all of us can think like that. And the benefit of it is that you get to take power. So we started with Bruce. Bruce takes power. So he gave me his address and he sent me his power use data. And the simple idea is that Bruce has a palace somewhere, and he has a business as well in the middle here, and he's got these customers. So essentially, Bruce has a huge roof. And he sent me, I've looked at it, studied it, still got out the front before and got lost. So it didn't make any difference that I had to study the roof in detail. I still had no idea where I was. But I'm an economist, so I'll just hide under that. So the idea is that if Bruce needs solar power, and he does, because he sent me the numbers, you can put it on the roof and he's right. And that's a very good return on investment. Potentially up to 40% behind the meter. So most people, even people who are interested in this space, don't understand solar. If you can do it behind the meter on your property, you are ahead. And the way to think about it is, if you put your money in a bank, what are they going to pay you? 2% before tax, if you're lucky. But you put it on your roof, you're looking at 10 to 15% to 30% savings, depending on what your power bill is. But the trouble is that in some places there's no roof, or there's no roof they own, or the landlord is disagreeable, and they can't actually get the solar on their roof for one reason or another, or they can get solar on their roof, it's shaded, or they need more solar. They're a sizable business, they're BHP, they're an office tower, they're a council. So what do we do then? And the big return to solar is to you, the energy user, in your pocket. If you can generate it yourself, you're the one who saves. Investors can get into this, but their returns aren't as great as you because you're paying probably 15 cents a kilowatt hour and up. If you're in South Australia, you're paying 40 cents a kilowatt hour. So I feel sorry for them, trying to run a business like that in this country. So the idea is very simple. We call it offsite solar, but it comes down to a virtual network, basically. What it means is that you have your place, and at your place, which is either your business or your house, you've got your power demand, and somewhere out there in the bush, in New South Wales, we build a solar farm. And that solar farm, can sit in a unit trust if you're big enough, or you've got the land. If we can build one for you specifically, but for most people, it'll be in a unit trust. That solar from those units that you own in that trust can then be delivered to your house. That electricity will come to your house or to your business, as much as you want, whatever scale you want. That's entirely up to you. And the mechanism for doing that is that we have a favourite retailer who sits in the middle here. And as the retailer said to me in the boardroom one day about 3 years ago when this started, he said, the grid's just a swimming pool. We pour stuff in, you take stuff out on the other side, and we send you a bill for it. So they stand in the middle, you join them as their customer, and on your bill, you'll get your usage of the power, which is your load. You can put your grandmother's place on, you can put your kids' places on, you can put your Tesla Model S on there, you can put BHP on there, and then they'll put the generation that you own out in our unit trust. And those are your units, that's your power, that sits on your bill. And you get as much of those units as you want, and basically they will net your bill out against your actual usage. So basically, you get it matched perfectly each quarter. Your electricity is basically your electricity. You can charge yourself whatever you want for it because you own it in your unit trust. And so the only thing you need to pay for is a network charge. Unfortunately, we haven't figured out how to defeat the network charges yet, but the network charge does pay the retailer to help them do this for yourselves. So that's actually useful, and they just charge a normal retailer network fees, but they don't charge you for your electricity. So what you do is you speak to your financial advisor and you ask them, because this is an asset out here, a taxable asset, and we've chosen a unit trust because you need to have control of this asset. It's about you taking power. That's the entire aim of this process. As a unit trust, it means that you've got an investment asset, basically. You own your solar panels, and the solar panels we go for are 25 years warranted, 80% power, and in my preference, they'll be the 30-year ones which are now available. So in 30 years' time, they'll still be producing at 80% of their power, and the leases we get on the land, if you don't buy the land under the solar farm, so if we bought the land under the solar farm, you own that too in a unit trust. If we lease the land with a farmer, we'll get a 30-year option on the land as well. So for 60 years, those solar panels can sit there and send you and your successors, if you leave us, power, basically. So this asset sitting here is unit trust. So in the case of Bruce's business here, if we just take it first, so I'll just this is a little bit more complicated and it's hard to read from there. So let's just take the idea first that Bruce has a need for solar panels here. I've put him down for about 120 kilowatts of solar panels, given his bill that he has here. But let's say that he could only have half of that on his roof, so 60. The other 60 kilowatts, we call it offsite solar, and it's sitting out at, let's pick a place, Evans Head. Evans Head because it's on as far east of here as we can get without winding up in the water. And that means we get the early morning sun, because when you see Bruce's power usage, you'll see he needs a bit in the early morning. And that means that 20 kilowatts, that 60 kilowatts there arrives at his place on that bill, on a cycle. And of course, what we're doing is, if you're Bruce, you're thinking, well, I'll have some at Evans Head because that's my morning use, that's my breakfast. I'll have another set at Broken Hill, of units at Broken Hill, because that's my evening, that's watching the television, that's cleaning the factory, that's doing all that stuff, charging up the Tesla for the morning run. And so you as an owner of these units can now create a portfolio. You get the portfolio of solar assets to follow the sun. and supply you with power across your day. The idea being that the more you can get from the solar panel, the less storage you need. And of course, storage is more, at the moment, more expensive than solar. Solar is the cheapest form of power, or it's right there with wind. There's nothing beats it, and it's getting cheaper by the moment. So you want to have as much of that solar stuff as you can. You want to face your panels at Evans Head, you want to face them to the east to catch the sun from New Zealand, and over in Broken Hill, you want to face them to the west to catch the evening sun as it sinks over Perth, and send that power to your place here, or Bruce's place here at Wyong. So that's what this is about, how you play this particular game within one state. This model already works for one council. This is where it began. They did it for a council. This council has built a 50-megawatt solar farm. The retailer stood in the middle. 400 NMIs, your NEMI, the meter number on your meter box outside your house and your business. Everybody has them. They have 400 NEMIs on one bill and their solar farm, and they net them out. And that's it. A virtual network, they're solar, they're in charge, and they've got their prices set for as long as that solar farm keeps operating. So this is a portfolio effect. You go a little bit further, and you start to play these sorts of games. So this is Bruce's roof here, and I'm sure some of you have seen this stuff. A lot of you have solar already. It's just very simple, but Bruce's usage is the black line. The red is export, and the generation of solar is the yellow. As you can see, he's got a little morning patch. So with the solar on the roof, that's 112 kilowatts up there on the roof, that's taken out this patch here. But he's got a lot of export, so he's getting an 11-cent feed-in tariff, but he's still got this patch in the morning. And this is the interesting thing about solar, particularly if you're interested in sustainability and you want to get it all yourself or what have you, is it only takes one day with one cloud over the shed, and that's it. You're back on the grid, okay, which is fine. You know, if the grid's going renewable, so none of that really matters. But you know, if you want to pay that price, when you could find another way of doing it, and that's the thing with solar, has saved you money here, but we can't save you money here at the moment unless we go further and put a battery in. And just to give you a quick idea, Bruce is very regular. This is his consumption every month. That's the 12 months of a year. You can see he's doing pretty much the same thing each day. In fact, he's perfect for solar, your business. This is daytime, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So it's Sunday, Saturday. So his cycle, someone's coming in here between 4 and 5 in the morning and they're firing the place up. Good on them. That's great. We love economists. We love productivity. It's fantastic, right? And but of course the sun's not up then, so that's the major challenge that they've got. Other than that, the solar would knock Bruce's power use out of the park. Basically, this is just so you can see the system performance. I'm not sure what you can see. The problem in solar is there's a grey line through there. That grey line is the consumption. I've got this solar set up so that in the June solstice, at the worst time of the year, his solar is just getting him over the line, right, on a monthly average. Now, there'll be days in June when he doesn't get over the line, he doesn't match his generation, but this is the sort of thinking that you have to go through when you think about what you want for your solar, and which is why we're offering this additional option of offsite solar, because it allows you to, everybody, everywhere, to have solar to back them during daytime. We then need to work through the rest of the process. So in terms of just money and payback, so the rooftop one, 5 years and 8 months to pay back. So I've assumed a $1,500 a kilowatt price, which is probably pretty expensive for rooftop solar, but still, the money's coming back in 5 years and 8 months, and that is, as I've set up there, over 17% return on investment. So once again, compare it with your bank account on the same basis, like for like, bearing in mind that obviously the solar panels will wear out. You need to replace them. Your bank account doesn't wear out per se, but it's still paying a steady rate of interest. So it's always good to compare it with your bank account, but keep keep that in mind. So 17%, no, almost 18, 5-year, 8-month payback. I've actually seen solar people in the industry say, oh, it's going to take 10 years to pay it back. What? Why are you complaining? That's 10% return. You can get better in your bank account, on your share market portfolio. I doubt it. And this is an after-tax return too. So there's no tax person there to take the money off you at that point in the chain. They're further down when your income goes to the roof. But so I compared this directly. Oh, I'll just go back on that one. So this is 112 kilowatts or so is just over the STC, so you're familiar with the subsidy on solar. It cuts out at 99.9 kilowatts. So I've deliberately put Bruce over the 99 kilowatts because I wanted him to get the long-term certificates, not the short-term certificates. So there's a short-term subsidy, a long-term subsidy. The short-term subsidy comes as an upfront. Long-term subsidy comes as the years go by. So I put him into that category because when we give people off-site solar units, that it doesn't get the STC at this moment. I'd like it to get it should do, but anyway, it'll get the LGCs over time, and the revenue from those accumulate into the unit trust. So the rate of return there, just on the solar saving, is about 13% for the off-site solar, not taking into account all the other things that can happen here. So you've basically got your solar coming in, your power bill's now on electricity side, let's say it's zero, except for your network charges. Those savings, some of them, you speak to your financial advisor or accountant, and they will say, and then the unit trust itself will decide, people should pay like 3 cents a kilowatt hour into the unit trust to keep it financially viable. And then at the end of the year or the month or the quarter, the unit trust will liquidate the cash in the trust and return that back to yourself as the owner of those units. And of course, you'll get the benefits of, first we get the LGCs in there. Secondly, you're getting the depreciation benefit. So in solar, of course, it's a big capital upfront cost. Under Australia's tax laws, it's a 10% diminishing balance saving. So in the unit trust, they can depreciate the first $1 million, $100,000 in the first year of that asset, which means that the earnings of the trust are basically after tax in your hands. They're tax-free in your hands in that unit trust. There's a lot more fancy games that I'd love to play with this stuff, involving offshore islands and tax trusts and whatever. We can do that another day, and I'm no good at it anyway, but it'll be fun, and we get to visit them. But that's the best bit. But this is what happens with big solar farms and big wind farms. They get these benefits. This way you get this benefit, and if you're running a business with some serious energy use, this is where you start to grow your asset base. And the idea here that you're going to grow this asset base of solar over time, and you'll pay it back, depreciate it, and you'll gradually come out ahead on your power bill. So I've just put these two guys here. You think they're cars, a Nissan Leaf, 64 kilowatt hour battery, and a Tesla S, 100 kilowatt hour battery. They're not, they're batteries on wheels. So forget about the car stuff, that's boring. The fun stuff is when they make you money, because Bruce is going to get one for himself, and he's going to get one for someone else in the business, right? And now, so when you see Bruce's power use, if I just go back again here, so these are only like 50 kilowatts at peak. He did go to 60 on occasions in an hour in certain circumstances. So bearing in mind that the Nissan Leaf has a 64 kilowatt hour battery in it, so it could do a fair bit of Bruce's day at the factory if the cloud came and sat over the top, and he ran it home, charged it up, run it down here, ran the factory, went back again, and he could even get the Tesla to do that, right? And in 3 days' time, Elon is going to have a battery day, and he's going to talk about a 1,000,000-mile battery. Who wants one? Like, who's going to drive 1,000,000 miles? First of all, we'll die of heart attacks because we'll be fat and miserable, right? But the thing is, a 1,000,000-mile battery can go up and down for your daily commute and then go up and down half a dozen times to run your business and your home and back those up in those days where there's that overcast. And of course, if you've got, the problem most people have is that they get a Tesla and it takes 25% of the power that goes into your Tesla disappears as it goes in because there's a loss in the transaction. Right? So you need some serious electricity resources to keep it running. So what you do is you have Offsite to run that. And if you have a vehicle fleet, you have of some kind, or even trucks, so which Hyundai and so on, those trucks are on their way. You can run that whole fleet. What you would also do is here is so in this thing, because you've got off-site solar now, so all your power's coming. The question is, well, what happens at night? Okay, because this is a big issue for people. So what's happening is that this is obviously a battery thing. So now the battery comes in two parts. Basically, there's a car side. That's the easy part, if you've got one. But that's an emergency and an occasional top up. But you need a battery of some kind just to cover that gap, but also to cover what I see as increasing risks on the grid. So I don't want to freak people out, but we've got a blackout coming somewhere sooner or later. South Australia's had one. You've seen how our governments have handled the pandemic, and I don't know what you think, but it wasn't a tremendous show of achievement, right? They scrambled. Now they've been told the same things about the grid by the experts forever. They haven't taken the measures they need to. They're lagging the curve. This is some protection for you no matter where you are, in a house or in a business or what have you. You need to think of it as an insurance policy. This battery, this storage, has a stack of services it's going to offer. And one of the best things it's going to do is it's going to take all the power from the off-site battery during the day and park it there for the nighttime run. So if you're running, as my accountant does, a bakery, at midnight, so 6 o'clock in the evening till 6 in the morning, you can bring the power in during the day and you can run it through the battery at night time. There's one solution, and it actually pays. So the cost of batteries have dropped so much that this pays at about 5% to 8% return. Going back to the cars, so the idea of Take Power was to give you the energy you need to run your business and your life. First, you've got your house. Sorry, going backwards. You've got your house covered, your business covered. You've got your night times potentially covered. These guys potentially cover your emergencies and other things you might want to do as well. But the thing with the electric vehicles, which is another reason to get into this pretty quickly, because you won't be able to buy the electric vehicles for love of money because the demand's going to be so high, is that, so this is some data, which is probably unreadable at a distance, but essentially 76 councils in Australia put their electric vehicle and their petrol vehicle data into the fleet database. These guys buy 9,000 cars a year, and the results were that basically electric vehicles are effectively virtually beating everything in terms of the cost per kilometre running at hatch, sedan, SUV, ute, van and minibus. They're beating them hands down. And the message from EV owners is, if you've got your own solar, energy's not an issue. Operating costs of the vehicle, they say under half of an ICE vehicle. I suspect they're about 10% of an ICE, a petrol vehicle. So if you're a business, this is going out the door. So when you go back, yep.
We're about 78 cents a kilometre for our vehicles. To give you an idea, and that's electrics, 31, 38.
Yeah. What type of vehicle have you got?
Well, I run a Renault van.
Yeah. And this is a staggering amount of money. So when you get that Tesla, this is an investment. This is an investment. You might think it's just a toy, all right? Yeah, good. Just keep saying that because it is. And if you want a Mercedes electric four-wheel drive, just arrived in Australia, brought in, do you know where to go find it? Okay? Don't bother with your Mercedes dealership. It's at the only Mercedes dealership at the airport, right? You've got to book up. You've got to, and book a time and go down there and drive it, and you've got to make the effort because they're not going to make the effort. because most of their revenue in the dealerships is on servicing, right? And they know that's crushed. So the Nissan Leaf there, the 64 kilowatt hour version, if you want one of those, you have to import it yourself from Japan. They came out only last year, but they're not bringing them here to Australia. We've got the 40 kilowatt hour version, which has been here for 2 years. And, because it crushes the dealer's service routine, which is your money. So as much as I don't like disruption for people, unfortunately, it's coming at 1 million miles an hour in this space. And so the beauty of this situation is, of this opportunity with a virtual network, you can power everything you have at reasonable cost. You can build an asset for the future. So you have your little solar farm, your units. You can move house in New South Wales, move business in New South Wales. The power follows you, right? It just follows you wherever you go in New South Wales. You can put your kids on there. You can put your grandma on there. You can put everybody on there. You can do a deal with your staff. So in Bruce's case, he's got extra power, and in the summertime, that's always the thing, there's all this surge of power. You put your staff on the bill if they're interested, and they might pay 10 cents a kilowatt hour, and from the power that you're supplying with, going to normal power rates in June when that cloud sits over the factory and maybe shuts it down. But with the offsite, of course, you can cover that too, but that's the option. So the unit trust is ASX listed. It's not us. It's out there. They're an investment managers, is what they do. They'll fire us if we get in the way. The retailer is well known. They're out there. They don't get any money from us. They just organise a system. They get paid their fees. We've got one council doing it already. You've got a ton of savings. And the question is, when do you stop? How far do you go with this? And this return on investment should be your driver. And it will, make you better off, and at the same time, the planet a little bit more sustainable as you do it. And you keep going with your investing until basically your cost of capital meets your return on this investment. That's the economist way of handling it, which is quite a bit, because most people have got solar on their roofs and they stop dead. There's a ton more savings to be had. So what I didn't say was in Bruce's rooftop bill, he went from paying $6,000 a quarter or whatever it was to receiving $2,000 a quarter. So that's just on the rooftop. So and now this opportunity. So the reason Bruce dragged me out of my grotto is, if you're interested in any of this, get in contact, and I'm just registering interest. And as soon as we're ready to go, we'll send you the relevant emails, and you can follow it along. Eventually, it'll be online and be like virtual solar. So at 2 o'clock in the morning, you can buy your own solar, as much as you want, structure your portfolio. And I've done my bit.
Thank you very much, Francis. So, who would have thought you were coming here today to hear a talk about solar and actually get a real estate investment talk?
That's right, exactly.
Which is cool. I quite like it because there's no tenants.
There's no tenants, though we have got a rent-to-own scheme. So you would actually rent the panels, get the power, and then over time you'd eventually own the panels. And on the other side of that ledger, we've considered that we can have investors who lease to own. So they would own the panels in the unit trust and lease them to someone to use and gradually get paid out over time. So there's a nice two-way street in there. And within that unit trust, you can actually, there's an internal market to sell. So this particular unit trust is well organised. They do property. We just came along and said, you could do solar here, which is a very simple, easy property.
That's starting to sound like a no money down investment.
It's pretty...
Buy it here.
Yeah.
Today,
today,
right now.
Yes, exactly. And Bruce, and everyone should be aware of that. That's on my iPhone. You can have it on your iPhone for free. It's an app. Here in Queensland, South Australia, negative $50. So they're paying you $50 for every megawatt hour you take. That's what that says. Right? Queensland does that in the middle of the day a lot now. They'll pay you to take the power into your battery. Of course, that's why you want a battery in a Tesla, because please, go load it up, take it all. So there's your optimization choice. As you become energy asset owners, this is where you're going.
As on the negative pricing on electricity, I was reading an article, And California has invested so heavily in renewable energy that for a lot of the year they've got negative energy prices. And so the neighbouring states to California go, this is fabulous. We'll buy your electricity, turn it into hydrogen, and would you like to buy the hydrogen? And it's just working well, and it's a virtuous circle. So I think California's delighted to see it happen. And that's part of the reason that Nikola is actually able to start to develop their truck routes. So, yes, exciting times. Very exciting times.
Yep.
So, any questions for Francis? Because I imagine everyone understood that straight up.
Silly question. The complexity of getting the power back out of a Tesla battery.
Well, sorry, what was that?
The complexity of getting the power back out of a Tesla battery.
Oh, right, okay, yes.
Explaining if I understand that correctly.
Yes, so it's known as V2G, vehicle-to-grid technology. So the concept's been around for 30 years that electric cars and the batteries can power the grid. So Tesla has V2G technology that is on its way. The Nissan Leaf comes with it already. So you can put the power back into your house, basically, and run your house from your car. And I believe there's other chargers out there that can do that as well. So
So if you own a Tesla already,
yep.
for it to go back and rebuild it.
Yeah, you'd need to speak to them about what you need in your house, in your garage, for that connection to work. But I would talk to them now, because I think what I've heard is that they're ready, they're actually doing it. I actually thought it was standard. I was a bit surprised that it wasn't already the done thing. But they're apparently retrofitting that capacity. I think it's in the chargers, not in the vehicle itself.
It's called an upsale.
Yeah.
And it's one of the joys of owning a Tesla is that you get updated monthly with new software, so the car runs better.
Yeah.
It's basically because the software is built to be better.
Yeah, that is fabulous. Can I just ask a question though? Because when my computer gets updated, it doesn't run better. So I'd like to just get one. No.
We covered that last talk, and I think it was buy an Apple. Because we spoke about love marks. Yeah.
Question. So you're effectively wheeling the power from the solar farm to the consumer.
Yes.
But because we're not allowed to wheel in Australia, well, we can in some jurisdictions, you've got to use a retailer to sort it out. Is that effectively how you do it?
Effectively, that's what's happening. So this retailer, because they had this issue with this council who wanted to build their own solar farm and get all that power to the 400 NMI, they had to solve the problem. So they sorted out the back end of their computer system, and they figured out how to do it and made it work. And we were discussing it around their boardroom about 3 years ago. Said, well, you could do that with everybody. Right? I said, yeah, we can do it with anyone. Doesn't matter what the scale of business is. We can do that and deliver the power to them. And so that's where we're getting to work to try and connect people up to the solar farms. Now, eventually, I think every retailer, this is why I'm in a bit of stealth mode here. So you're the first group to hear this talk, because I think every retailer is going to do this. As soon as they figured it out, they're going to go, oh, look, fine IT, get that sorted. We want to do that right now, because it's the future of retailing. It's like driving a car on the road. You own your car, you know where you're going, you know your departure point, right? You don't need to have anybody else do that for you. All the power company needs to do is sustain the road, create the passageways for you to do your electrical activities on the grid.
And what's the spread they'll charge to do that? Because you've obviously got the top charges in the network. Take a clip of the ticket.
Yep.
6 cents, 5 cents.
Nothing, exactly what you're paying now. No difference. You would just pay your normal power bill. So you get your power bill, and on that bill you separate out the electrical side of that power bill, the electricity that you're paying for, separate from the network that you're paying for. They will just charge you for your network as before. No difference. But you now own that electricity, so that's you then pay for that as per the unit trust rules and so on. And I might add, well, on the unit trust subject, this actually, the unit trust arrangement is great for community solar farms. So I know a lot of people want to do community solar. The problem with communities is, as you know, they all argue with each other and they're impossible and painful to deal with. The beauty of a unit trust is the unit trust, for those you don't know, under Australian financial services law, you've got the unit trust, regulated by that law, and then you've got the investment manager and the responsible entity. The investment manager sits in the middle as a professional manager saying, this is what the unit trust needs. You can all vote, but you can't be idiots, right? Because we're here to impose a law, and the law requires to act like that. And if we behave like idiots, the responsible entity will sack us as the unit trust investment manager. And of course, we're developers, so we build the solar farm. We take units in the unit trust, but we manage it, the farms. There's a business manager, maximise the money flow. There's an operations manager to cut the grass. In ours, they're agriculturally sensitive, so you can run sheep under them, so that's all fine, or conservation. And you need also business and operations, that'll do. And so we can all be sacked by the investment manager. And the investment manager can get sacked by the responsible entity. So there's no room for people to play power games from the community side, but they get a community unit trust at the same time, if that's what they want. Hi.
Putting battery aside for the moment, I still think the big challenge is around intermittency with renewable energy in the if it's coming through the grid.
Mm-hmm.
But your notion of a community grid, I think, is really interesting because if it was widely adopted by a community and businesses in the community, then you could start to address the intermittency problem in part through demand management as well. And so my question is just, is anyone doing that? Has anyone building any software to try or using AI to start predicting patterns of demand and
Absolutely.
then trying to manage demand so you don't get the spikes and don't have the intermittency problem?
Yep. No, that's all happening. And while I'm in my grotto typing away, I try to get this thing running. I'm watching what everybody else is doing, and I think they're all watching. Everybody's watching each other. There's all sorts of new players in here. So you saw the announcement from our leader about gas turbines in Newcastle. That's to address a perceived intermittency problem. Unfortunately, sorry, Bruce, our Prime Minister doesn't read the paper, right? AGL last week, a week before that announcement, announced something which you should pay close attention to. If you want a Tesla, AGL will lease you a Tesla, right? If you want any electric vehicle, they'll lease you the vehicle. And as my power prices specialist said, and they're good prices, right? These are good price, $15,000 a year, I think he worked out for a Tesla on a lease or something. Why is AGL doing that? At first, it's a bit counterintuitive why they're doing it. But what's happening is they're going, these are batteries on wheels. 95% of the time they're sitting around doing nothing. If we own all those vehicles, we can turn those batteries into one gigantic virtual power plant. And that is exactly what they're doing, right? And they want you to buy electric vehicles from them. And there's a sign, it's like if they put in a skywriter, they couldn't have made it clearer, except it didn't reach Canberra, okay? So, right? They're still going to do a gas turbine. Great, guys, do use the gas turbine. We will never run it. You'll just waste your money and look like idiots, but that's your choice, right, with our money. But anyway, so that's the AGL's play into this space, and keep watching for these things. The two smartest, AGL and Origin, are the two smartest power companies in Australia, and I think they're the two smartest in the world, with the exception of Nextera in the US, right? So AGL and Origin go out, find out what everybody else is doing, and come back and do it here first, even though we might moan and, they're so slow, and they're trying to do this, and also they're trying to crush us, anybody who competes with them at all, which is fine, within the law, that's fine. But so watch what they're doing and keep that in mind. So that's potentially a 10 gigawatt battery in cars alone that can flatten grid and deal with grid intermittency. Also, every house will have a battery. That's just going to be the way it is. To be on the grid, you'll need to have a battery. The grid authority will be able to turn off your battery and your connectivity to the grid. So when they do that to you, you want to be able to be islanded so you can keep running, keep your fridge going while they sort out whatever the mess is out there. Call us when it's over. We're not interested, right? And what's Origin doing? So a week ago, before the Prime Minister's announcement, Origin announced an exclusive dealership with a company called Orison in the US. Orison has come up with plug-and-play batteries for your house. They're like little Lego bricks. They're about this wide, that deep, that high, and you literally bring them in your house, plug them into the wall socket, and they will draw power from the grid and fill up. They have their own sockets for running key appliances, and you put a device in your, as a householder, you put a device in your switch box, which just put it in there. You don't need to screw it in or anything, just leave it in there, and it will read your power supply and what your house is doing and your circuits. It will go back to a central control room of the virtual power plant and be able to, when the grid needs demand management, like needs to shut down power to create power elsewhere, create space elsewhere, it can shut down your thing with this plug-and-play battery. And Origin have the exclusive rights to distribute this product in Australia by, I think they're 1.2 kilowatts each. They're like $1,000 or something. Buy 10. Buy as many as you want. Plug them all in, and they'll liven that whole circuit up for all that equipment that's on that circuit, and you're right. And I was kicking myself thinking, of course, I should have thought of that. That's exactly what you should be doing. Because the other batteries, these batteries here, so value stacking your battery, a battery, there's about 9 different services there. A battery can have up to 13 different services that it supplies to different people. Your house, obviously, to keep you in power at night. It can also at night, when you put the battery with the right inverter, you can actually play reactive power games with the grid management authority, help them keep the local grid stable. There's time of distribution deferral, transmission congestion relief. So utilities, the local area utility, the power company, the transmission utility, and the grid manager all want to control your battery. And in South Australia, this is something you should be aware of before you get your battery. AGL took over someone's batteries the other day under their virtual power plant, and people were shocked. Give me my battery back. It's my battery. You've taken control of my battery. When do I get it back? How am I? People hadn't read the fine print of the contract in the virtual power plant, you see. So which is fine. You can wind up, okay? Is because you get paid for that. So a retailer I know will pay you $1 a kilowatt hour for giving you control of the battery. Sorry, there were some other questions. Come and ask me, and if you want to register, I'll write your name down. We'll do all that.